Cultivate truth, eliminate falsehood and preserve truth, and reveal one's true nature. Those who can achieve this are called real people. They achieve the primordial spirit and transcend life and death. Destruction Illustrated, Destruction Path Species. A wandering traveler who stumbled upon ancient immortal methods and practiced in this vast world of countless realms and billions. Group ID, Group 2139933048, already full, Group ID 14093960. Keywords of the novel. No pop-ups in the Doomsday Illustrated Journey. Download the complete set of Doomsday Illustrated Journey TXT, and read the latest chapters of Doomsday Illustrated Journey. Chapter 1. Crossing. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1. Crossing. Shi Xian woke up from the darkness, feeling a splitting headache and vaguely remembering the immense pain of being hit by a 10-wheel truck. Seeing the sunshine shining on my chest, it's warm. I slowly felt the presence of my body, not only exclaiming, but also feeling extremely lucky. I was hit so far by a big truck that I didn't even die. At this moment, many memory fragments popped out of my mind, my head as big as a fight. I used to be dead, but an antique bead that I bought as a talisman suddenly shone brightly, enveloping my soul and tearing open the cracks in space, entering this world and becoming possessed by this unlucky person. Now this body is a little Taoist, still slightly magical. His original name was Dubai. 10 years ago, there was a severe drought in Qingzhou. His parents took him, who was only 8 years old at the time, south to escape the famine. As a result, both of them died on the roadside. Dubai was lucky enough to be spotted by Su Lao Dao, who passed by before starving and became a disciple. And Dubai himself has good qualifications. In just 10 years, he has reached the level of nourishing qi and strengthening soul, which is highly valued by Taoist Su. In my memory, Su Lao Dao often said that among the 13 provinces in the 2 capitals, only about 10 people had true magical power, and those with his magical power, combined with those that remain hidden in the world, are probably only a handful. It's only because he spent his entire life searching for the immortal path that he didn't make a name for himself in the world. When Su Daoshi was young, he had a chance encounter and had a true biography. He also practiced tirelessly and had a strong desire to seek the Tao. He never married in his lifetime, and at the age of 30, he reached the realm of soul, leaving the body. But in the following 10 years, he only gained profound skills and had no direction to break through his realm. Therefore, he went out to visit famous mountains and immortal waters, as well as places with various supernatural legends to search for immortals, but they were all like illusions and bubbles that could not be obtained. At the age of 100, although there were still a few places I had not been to, I eventually became disheartened and planned to return to my hometown. On his way back to his hometown, he realized that he was 100 years old and didn't have a good life in the next 10 years. He didn't want to accept the tradition he had learned, and his entire body was lost. That's why he took Dubai as his disciple. After returning to his hometown, Su Daoshi discovered that although his family was still alive, the familiar relatives in this house had already passed away in this year, and the few younger generations who were still alive did not know him. Therefore, he decided to buy a small courtyard in the west of the city to live in and cultivate Dubai with peace of mind. While teaching him Taoism, he also talked about his experience of traveling south and north to eliminate ghosts and demons throughout his life. 10 years have passed, and the great limit of the old Taoist has come. After falling asleep all night, he never wakes up again. Dubai and the old Taoist relied on each other for 10 years to make a living, and naturally felt extremely sad. Therefore, after burying the old Taoist, during a meditation session, he could not eliminate distractions and developed a demonic mind. He became possessed by a fire, and his body and soul died. Shi Xian slowly sat up, stood in front of the bed, moved his hands and feet, calmed his mood, and then sat cross-legged, learning the method of practicing qi from memory fragments. After a week of practicing qi, he opened his eyes and thought to himself that he was still a bit lucky. If this kid hadn't gone mad while meditating, but had gone mad while meditating, he wouldn't have known how much damage his body's meridians would have suffered. Even if he had possessed himself, he still didn't know how long he could live. At that time, it remains to be said whether we could travel again. Now there is only a slight damage to the body's meridians. Taking medication and simmering can restore them to good condition within half a month. As for little Pearl, who had just crossed over with her, she wanted to see the truth as soon as she had a memory. However, as she had just accepted the memory, her thoughts were complicated and her emotions were not stable. At this moment, she forcefully absorbed her inner thoughts, and it was hard to say that she would end up in a tragedy like that silly kid's heart demon attacking her. Based on his memory, Shi Xian found 3 incense sticks in the bedside grid. These are sandalwood fragrances that can calm his mind. Su Lao Dao collected materials and made them himself, which are very precious. Place the incense on the wooden table next to the incense burner, take a copper basin, push open the door, and draw a basin of water from the small well in the courtyard, which can be considered a revisit of my previous experience of fetching water from the well in the countryside. Carrying a copper basin, return to the room, put it away, and then lock the door. Then I washed my face with cold water and wiped it dry. Shi Xian suddenly felt a little refreshed and slowly changed into a new set of Taoist robes. Doing these things is just a means, with the aim of gradually calming emotions and unifying one's mind through these solemn actions. This is also why many religions always have many rituals. One of the reasons is this: to calm emotions and let thoughts go. Of course, in religion, this state, combined with the influence of the atmosphere around many people doing the same thing, makes it more convenient to preach. Shi Xian learned the method of memorization, transported the body's qi and blood, and then pinched and chanted mantras, which took about 10 breaths of effort. A flame sprouted from his finger and ignited 3 incense sticks. Shi Xian was both novel and disappointed. In his past life, as someone who had a special fondness for immortality and chivalry, he traveled to a world where he could cultivate immortality and use Taoist techniques. His novelty was certain, and coupled with his parents' early exhaustion, they both passed away before reaching the age of 60. He had no worries and was able to quickly accept the fact of traveling, so he became curious about this world. I am disappointed that such a weak ignition technique can only be used so slowly, and its power is still so small, which is a bit disappointing. In my memory, Su Tianchi once said that in the first stage of practicing physical and soul cultivation, one's body is only strong and cannot cast spells. In the second stage of nourishing qi and soul, spells can only be cast. However, their power is small, there are many steps, and it takes a long time. Facing opponents and experts in the martial arts world, also known as the nourishing qi period, is not at the same level of combat power. Therefore, they often use talismans and seal scripts, as well as pre-setting up the altar and preparing for the ritual before using spells. Of course, if there are magic tools, then definitely prioritize using magic tools. Only in the third stage, when the soul exits the body and becomes supernatural, can one gradually develop some small supernatural powers. In addition to a few basic ones, these small supernatural powers also vary depending on the individual's soul and cultivation techniques. At this stage, they have their own strengths compared to the martial arts masters in the martial arts world, and are better prepared. As for Taoist techniques, their power has been enhanced, but there are also many techniques such as transporting qi and blood, pinching spells and chanting mantras. For more powerful Taoist techniques, one must also observe the spirit. Stepping on the gang cloth and fighting is really time-consuming, so fighting with people usually involves using talismans, small divine powers, magical tools, and even fists and feet. Of course, the Taoist technique is magical, and it doesn't necessarily require direct combat to win. When a Taoist in the qi nourishing and soul strengthening period is prepared, it is also relatively easy to kill internal experts. As for the later stages, Su Tianchi is not very familiar with them either. He only got along with them for a long time, and when it came to the Golden Danpei divine period, he was moved and cast spells, destroying the city and cutting off the river, in order to be considered an immortal-like character. Having restrained his mind, Shi Xian held 3 incense sticks and bowed 3 times in the air, as a consolation to the soul of this body. Then, with the incense inserted, his 5 hearts sat cross in bed, facing the sky. Fortunately, this body often settled down, and now with the help of sandalwood, Shi Xian slowly settled down. As soon as he settled down, he noticed that his soul was attracted to the purple mansion in the center of his eyebrows. The small bead was quietly suspended, with a dim light, but a light was emitted from it, bringing a message to Shi Xian's soul. It turns out that this little bead is the afterlife spirit of the world. It is called Shanhe bead. It was acquired by the ancient powerful Qinjianzi. But Qinjianzi committed murder after the golden immortal, Hadao, congealed 2 flowers. He died together. Before he died, he thought of walking alone. His teacher, Taoist Yu, had seen through the great Tao, escaped from this world, and opened up a new Xintiandi. He could not let the Tao pass away in this world. I kept the teacher's teachings and the fundamental method of my own cultivation, the treasure record of the true transmission of Yu in the Upper Qing dynasty, in this newly acquired and yet to be refined postnatal spiritual object, Shanhe Zhu. With my final magical power, I broke through the void and sent it out. Unexpectedly, on the way to the mountains, rivers, and pearls, they encountered temporal and spatial oscillations and crossed to a different world, which is the earth where Shi Xian is located. Over the course of millions of years, gradually accumulating strength, under the stimulation of blood and soul after Shi Xian's car accident, his strength erupted. With the help of the time and space Tao markers left by Qinjianzi in the mountain and river Pearl, he brought Shi Xian to the world where Yu, the founder of Qinjianzi, once established the path to preach, which is his hometown. Yu Tian de world. After passing on this message, he passed on all the mysterious Taoist scriptures to Shi Xian's soul, but the light was completely dim, indicating that he was slowly regaining his strength. Shi Xian learned from the message left by Qinjianzi at the beginning of the Taoist book that the cultivation of this world is divided into 2 levels. Qi cultivation and elemental spirit cultivation. Qi cultivation is further divided into 7 stages. Soul cultivation, soul strengthening, exiting the body, Qi introduction, divine soul, golden pill, and Yin spirit cultivation. The Yuanshan stage is divided into Yuanshan, Yangshan, Tianren, Hadao, creator, and eternal. Of course, the above stage names are just abbreviations. For example, the full name of the Qi cultivation stage is forging body and soul, nourishing Qi and strengthening soul, soul leaving the body, attracting Qi and calcining soul, combining spirit and soul, cultivating spirit with golden pills, and condensing Yin spirit. After practicing the 2 steps of forging the body and nourishing the soul, as well as nourishing the Qi and strengthening the soul, one can reach the limit of one's own lifespan. By the time the soul exits the body, one can live an additional 30 years, about 120 years. By the time the Qi is introduced and the soul is calcined, the lifespan reaches 200 years, and the lifespan of the divine soul unity increases to 300 years. The lifespan of a master in the golden elixir period reaches 600 years, while the Yin god venerable can live up to 1,200 years. After reaching the level of Yuanshan, Qinjianzi only briefly mentioned the Yuanshan immortal, also known as the ghost immortal, who had broken through the gates of life and death. He lived the same life as heaven and earth, but had to endure various tribulations. He instructed Shi Xian not to let his physical body suffer destructive damage, otherwise he would not be able to achieve the Yuanshan. He also said that only after achieving the Yuanshan, would the second half of the treasure record, the Yuanshan chapter appear. Shi Xian woke up from his composure and, upon a brief recollection, remembered the content of the first half of the Du Yi de Dao Bao Lu. It seemed that the effect of soul memory was indeed much better. But now is not the time to practice. The most important thing now is to consider your future path and how to proceed. As a traveler, there is no foundation in oneself. Without any planning for the future, it is difficult for the soul to settle down. With direction, steps, and goals, the whole person will settle down. Just like what we often say now, this is the only way to feel secure. It is only after being able to calm one's mind that one can calm one's spirit. In modern society, many people with empty and restless minds have no goals or planned steps because they have goals. Of course, we don't know much information yet, so we can only make a rough plan. In the future, if you have more knowledge or encounter something, make modifications. This is also the logic that Shi Xian, a cautious person in the field of science and engineering, is most accustomed to. End of this chapter. Chapter 2. Planning for the Future. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2. Planning for the Future. As someone who already has a special fondness for immortality and chivalry, as someone who hopes to be carefree and fearless, and now has the opportunity to cultivate immortality and seek immortality, Shi Xian will definitely not hesitate to pursue it. To cultivate Taoism, wealth, companionship, dharma, and land are essential. Wealth, inheriting the legacy of the old Taoist, still has 1,000 taels of silver, but the accumulation of cultivation resources is very small. In the words of Su Laodao, the land of Middle-earth is scarce for cultivating immortals. From the perspective of Su Laodao's teachings, the highest cultivation level in the 2 capitals and 13 provinces is only to the point where the soul exits the body. Therefore, when one's cultivation level is high and there is a bottleneck that requires stones from other mountains, it may be difficult to find people of the same level to discuss, let alone when encountering difficulties or sentences that are not understood in Taoism. It is time to seek advice from people of higher levels. Dharma. I already have the fundamental Dharma that directly points to the Tao. There is no need to seek it from outside, but from the content of the first volume of the treasure record just now, it leans more towards the Tao. There are only about 10 natural Tao Dharma derived from my own Tao decisions in terms of Dharma. And the content of the alchemy was only excerpted by Qinjianzi himself at the back of the first volume, with only a few materials known from memory. The rest were materials from myths, storybooks, and storytelling, and even some were unheard of. Moreover, without the foundation of alchemy, Shi Xian almost burst into tears. When he saw some pictures of heaven, earth, mountains and rivers, life and death plates, and the 5 fire-burning sky banner before, he was very excited. The result was really disappointing. The content of alchemy is the same. It seems that these are not the contents of the treasure record. They are just the last few alchemy formulas and tool diagrams attached by Qinjianzi himself. In addition, he is a character from a long time ago, which is why this situation occurs. From Su Laodao's perspective, there are several famous mountains and rivers with good environments. Shi Xian sighed. It seemed that he would inevitably embark on the path of traveling around the world like Su Laodao, searching for immortals and paths in the future. Then, excluding the places that Su Laodao had visited, it seems that there are only 3 places in Zhongtu that need to be visited. Tongxian Mountain, Mangshan Mountain, and the imperial capital. The last one was added by Shi Xian himself, because if there really exists a world of cultivating immortals and they need to communicate with the mortal world, apart from famous mountains and rivers, only the capital of one dynasty can meet the conditions, whether it is to collect items such as spiritual herbs and other resources, or to recruit disciples with excellent talent. These are all based on various novels I have read before, combined with some experiential reasoning. If you're wrong, just go for nothing. After completing the journey to Middle-earth, if there is no fairy tale yet, I am ready to set sail and go to the mythological and legendary East China Sea Fairy Island. The following order is the southern part of the 100,000 mountains, followed by the western wasteland. Shi Xian took a sip of cold water, and his long-term goals and steps have been roughly planned. In the near future, he needs to heal his injuries first, and then his cultivation should be restored to the level of his body before he can move on to the next step once he has the ability to protect himself. After following the old Taoist for 10 years, I still have the ability to treat injuries and apply medicine. Within half a month, my body can recover to its original state. However, the main problem is that the body and soul levels are different. The body is Du Bai's body, which has already passed the state of physical training and reached the level of self-generating internal energy and strong soul. And the soul belongs to Shi Xian. In his previous life, he was fine when he was in school, but he neglected to exercise after going to work. The soul realm is also considered in the early stage of physical fitness and soul cultivation. This is also the reason why Shi Xian did not immediately start his meditation practice. During meditation, he would guide his inner energy to strengthen his soul. At the current level of his soul, it is very likely that he will not be replenished due to emptiness. To be cautious, he should exercise his body daily and wait for his soul to slowly nourish his body until it reaches the initial stage of soul strengthening before starting his meditation. It took Du Bai 7 years to start forging his body from scratch and enter the period of nourishing qi and strengthening his soul. But now that the body has reached the stage of nourishing qi, the nourishment of the soul is not comparable to before. Shi Xian estimated that the soul entering the period of strengthening the soul should be a few times longer than before. The specific time it will take to arrive will depend on the nourishing effect. Moreover, the prescription for the medicinal bath that Du Bai used during his physical exercise, as well as the medicinal soup he drank, were all from the true teachings obtained by Su Laodao. Now, Shi Xian has a better choice and provides 3 prescriptions in the treasure book, each divided into 2 types. Medicinal bath and taking. However, like Dan Fong and Qi Tu, many medicinal herbs inside are unheard of or legendary. Especially the first prescription of the Dragon Emperor blood refining pill, 70.8% of which is unheard of and legendary in mythology. The second prescription, Renxian forging body soup, is 45%. Fortunately, the third prescription, Qianyuan Huansui Tang, may be said by the best doctor outside to have more than 20% of it that has not been heard of or is said to be from myths and legends. However, these are included in Su Laodao's prescription, and their ancient names are also marked, along with their current names after the evolution of time. Of course, everything is not perfect, and there is still a medicinal herb called Shishang that is not labeled. However, Shi Xian remembers seeing it in ancient books and can basically confirm that it is one of the Shibao, red ginseng, and Taichin faces. The specific one can only be bought later when going out. You need to find a few experimental animals and give them a try to find out. In fact, even if the drug name matches the name, Shi Xian plans to conduct animal experiments first, because after such a long evolution of the drug name, it is very likely that another drug will evolve into the current name. For example, originally it was A and B, but after evolution, the name of A changed to D, while the name of B changed to A. Of course, if this situation occurs, it is highly likely that the medicinal properties of A and B are different. Shi Xian is now proficient in pharmacology and should be able to distinguish them. But if the properties of A and B are the same, with only slight differences, it is also possible that B, a drug, can impersonate A in Su Laodao's prescription and have an effect that matches the properties of other drugs. However, in the medicine that Shi Xian is preparing to use, it is toxic due to slight differences. The probability of this is very low, but it can't withstand any unforeseen circumstances. It's better to be cautious when it comes to issues that affect one's own life. If there really is a problem, who should I cry with? Shi Xian had decided on his future path and several things he needed to do recently. He suddenly felt very hungry and changed into a Taoist robe, carrying over 100 taels of silver. He planned to go out to fill his stomach first, and then do various important things such as buying medicine. As for the few relics left by Su Laodao, it's better to wait until late at night to watch them after leaving the yard. I was almost blinded by the sunlight. It was already past noon, no wonder my stomach was so hungry. Lock the courtyard door, greet the neighbors on both sides, and then walk towards the alley. The neighbors on the left and right were very surprised. Aunt Zhang on the left said to Aunt Li on the right, "Hey, this kid is usually very shy. When he sees us passing by with our heads buried in our own hands, the sun is shining in the west today, so he takes the initiative to say hello. I think he tasted all kinds of flavors after his grandfather passed away. I think this kid is pretty good too. Your daughter, Shui Lingling, is a perfect match for him. His family is also wealthy, and he can definitely get out a few hundred taels of silver. Aunt Li has a passionate love for matchmaking work." Aunt Zhang sighed and said, "My dead girl, who has been reading with her second uncle for a few days, is very proud and always wants to find a Jinshi master, but she doesn't look at herself. Jinshi master is a celestial constellation descending to earth. Does she deserve it?" But when Shi Xian left the alley, he arrived at the bustling street, and instead of choosing the ornate grand restaurant, he followed his memory and entered a small noodle shop on the street. "Uncle Lu, come with 3 liang of Yangchun noodles and cut half a pound of braised pork intestines. The braised flavor of this restaurant is unique in this city. You should know that this city is the capital of Xi'an Prefecture, and it is not a small town in the border of Yangzhou, except for Yangzhou City. Moreover, it is a famous transportation hub in the 13 provinces under heaven, controlled by the Yangtze River Canal. I said you used to come very early. It's almost past noon today." Lu, the shopkeeper, cut the pig intestines and walked over with a big belly, showing great concern for this growing neighbor. "Hey, don't mention it. Last night, I was thinking about what to do in the future and couldn't sleep, feeling a lot of pressure." Shi Xian recalled Du Bai's tone in front of Lu's shop owner, but still unconsciously took on his current tone. Fortunately, the shop owner Lu was concerned about the topic and didn't pay too much attention to his tone. "I see you have a good physique. Why don't you go to the yamen and become a yamen servant? The salary is not high, but all other aspects add up to a lot. Although your family has some financial resources, you still can't sit idly by. I still have some connections in this regard." Shi Xian thought for a moment and said, "Uncle Lu, I have a relative in Anjing City. I plan to leave in 6 months to join him. At the feet of the emperor, there will be more opportunities. This can be considered as a foreshadowing for my future departure." The neighbors around basically only know that Shi Xian is suffering from physical pain, but they are unaware of the practice of Taoism. Even those who have truly seen Taoism in the world are probably very few. As for the issue of the Taoist robe, several consecutive emperors have believed in it, so the atmosphere of the world is natural. Many wealthy businessmen, even Confucian scholars and high-ranking officials, love to wear Taoist robes at home. In other words, Taoist robes are modern luxury casual clothes. So Shi Xian was dressed in a Taoist robe without a Taoist dish, which was nothing. At most he was thought to be the son of a wealthy businessman or a Confucian scholar. Under the feet of the emperor, although there are many opportunities, there are also many dangers. I know you are young and ambitious, and you also need to measure your abilities." Lu, the shopkeeper, finished patting Shi Xian's shoulder and went to greet the new customers. At this moment, Yangchun noodles were also served. Shi Xian had been starving for a long time, but with 10 years of cultivation experience, he knew he couldn't eat in a hurry at this time and started eating slowly. Take a sip of Yangchun noodles and a sip of braised soup. It's light and refreshing, with a strong braised aroma. It's smooth but not greasy, it's really a delicious dish on earth. After taking the last sip and drinking the noodle soup, it was really comfortable. After being a foodie in his previous life, Shi Xian finally felt good to be alive. He got up and gave the meal money to the shop owner Lu. After saying hello, he went out to the south of the city where there were several large medicinal herb shops. End of this chapter. Chapter 3. Buying medicine and examining relics, for collection. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3. Buying medicine and examining relics, for collection. Shi Xian has enough to eat and drink, and only then can the whole person have leisure to observe this city, which is completely different from modern society and has an antique charm. While reminiscing about the road to the south of the city, I looked around, perhaps because today was market day and there were crowds of people, with small vendors selling daily necessities on both sides. It seemed like they had been here for a long time. The vegetable sellers are mainly concentrated on a few streets, and outside these streets, only a few street corners can be seen sporadically from the south of the city. It's June now, and there are indeed many people wearing Taoist robes on the street. Some even wear Taoist robes and shake their folding fans, looking out of place. Shi Xian arrived at Shuijing Street in the south of the city and looked for the largest and most crowded pharmacy. As he walked to the door, he saw 3 large characters resembling Wei style written on the plaque. Tang. Shi Xian was immediately shocked. Tang was really impressive, and all the branches had opened in a different world. After entering the door, I went straight to the counter and saw that the shopkeeper was greeting guests. It was a great opportunity, so I smiled at the apprentice at the counter, greeted him, and then opened my mouth to report several medicinal herbs in the prescription. Although there were 2 valuable medicinal herbs in stock, the elementary school disciple didn't ask Shi Xian much. He directly wrapped them in oil paper and handed them to Shi Xian, saying, "Chenghui 4 taels and 3 coins of silver." Shi Xian was secretly surprised by the high cost of the medicinal herbs in his heart. These were just a few of them. Based on this, his wealth may only be able to prepare about 50 medicinal herbs, and each time he bought medicinal herbs, he could use them for about 3 days and 6 times. If his soul had not entered the period of soul strengthening after 6 months, he would have gone bankrupt. A Taoist who is poor in literature and rich in martial arts, and a destitute family, indeed has a certain reason. Of course, martial arts practitioners do not have such magical and precious prescriptions. Generally, the prescriptions used by martial arts practitioners to forge their bodies cost about tens of taels of silver per year, and the more precious ones are about 100 or 200 taels, which is also very scary. You should know that the small courtyard in Shi Xian is only worth 200 or 300 taels of silver. Although surprised in his heart, his face remained expressionless. He took out some broken silver and paid to leave, then went to several herbal medicine stores to prepare the herbs on the prescription. This way, purchasing from different stores can effectively prevent others from seeing the preciousness of the prescription through the purchased herbs. This can cause unnecessary trouble. Later, I went to a meat shop and told the shopkeeper that I planned to invite my family and friends to a dog meat banquet. The shopkeeper asked me to send 4 live dogs to my small courtyard located in the west of the city. Shi Xian returned to the small courtyard and meditated for a while. After calming down, he went to the left side room and found 3 spare medicine jars. He then chanted mantras to activate the energy of the 5 elements of his body and the induction of heaven and earth. He cast a dust removal spell to clean the medicine jars. Then, according to the different types of drugs, they were divided into 3 parts and each part was added according to the dosage and water requirements of the prescription. At this time, you cannot use commonly used medicine jars because no matter how you clean them, there will always be some residual medicinal properties in the commonly used medicine jars. Generally, there is no problem, but now it is a prescription similar to alchemy, and even a little extra medicinal properties may lead to failure. Take the medicine jar into the kitchen, where there is a row of small stoves that the old Taoist often uses to refine medicine. After putting them away, find wood and use ignition techniques to ignite them. Shi Xian began to feel a bit tired. His soul was too weak. Although the qi nourishing period could mobilize the energy of the 5 elements of the body to cast spells, it would ultimately consume the power of his soul. Of course, the energy of the 5 elements of the body during the qi nourishing period was also the reason why Shi Xian could cast spells with the soul of the body forging and soul nourishing period. Shi Xian perked up his energy and dared not neglect it. He pinched the key, recited a good spell, and used the fire control technique, carefully controlling the fire until half an hour had passed. The most difficult part ahead had passed, and now all he needed to do was maintain a gentle fire and slowly endure for another 2 hours. Shi Xian finally let out a long sigh, feeling dizzy all over. He quickly sat cross-legged, exhaled, and after a while, he finally gained the power to take action. When the butcher Zheng Sunan brought 2 black, 2 yellow, and 4 dogs, Shi Xian's face returned to normal. After tying up 4 dogs, Shi Xian dug buckets of well water from a small well and drank it happily before entering the house to tidy up the relics of the old Taoist. Shi Xian went into the old Taoist's room for the first time since his death. The room was very tidy, and he searched around. Apart from some clothes and commonly used items, it was just a grey package. These clothes were not very useful to Shi Xian, and his figure was not suitable. If he changed them, he wouldn't know how to sew. It seems that the old Taoist had a premonition about his own death, as everything had been received in the package. Opening the package, there were 3 things inside, one of which was an ancient book called The Return to Truth Sutra. It was the true transmission obtained by the old Taoist and the method that this body had previously practiced. However, for Shi Xian, if he had the fundamental method that directly pointed to the Tao, such as the treasure record of the true transmission of Yu in the Upper Qing dynasty, the cultivation method in this scripture would not be very useful. However, the Tao methods in the treasure record are all derived from the fundamental method. Except for a few supernatural powers that require external cultivation, most of them are Tao techniques that can only be practiced during the Golden Elixir period and beyond. On the other hand, there are many Taoist techniques that can be used in the Guozian Jing. Although they are all techniques, due to the limitations of the realm, their power is not great, but the techniques are magical and always have various useful aspects. Shi Xian thought of its low power, so he thought of a divine channel technique in the treasure record that required external cultivation. The Tai Yin Lung Yang Gung Jin sword Qi required finding a piece of Gung Jin, then using a secret method to absorb the Gung Jin Qi and store it in his lungs. He used the secret method day and night to endure it, and finally it could take shape. According to the description, its power was extraordinary, and it did not require pinching the spell and chanting time like casting spells. It was extremely fast to use, and even cultivators in the divine soul stage could not block its attack. Of course, if they could not hit it themselves, it was another matter, because this divine technique has a distance limit and a frequency limit. Of course, as the sword energy gradually warms up in the future, its power and distance will become greater. However, it's just a thought. The minimum requirement for practicing this divine skill is during the period of leaving the body, because there is no subtle control over one's own soul. What should be used to control the Gung Jin Qi? There is no powerful internal Qi power, and what should be used by the lungs to resist the sharpness of the Gung Jin Qi? Plus, Gung Jin is not so easy to find. Of course, it doesn't matter if you don't use Gung Gold. Tai Genuine Gold, Western Gold Essence, and Tai Bai Essence are all legendary artifacts that can be obtained for practicing immortal swords. It's just a matter of changing the name of the divine power. Of course, these are also rare but not desirable. Strangely, in the treasure record, Qinjianzi said that it is necessary to cultivate this divine skill, as well as the other 4 divine skills, Shaoyin Heart Yang Deficiency in True Fire, Jian Liver Yang Green with Transformation and Determination, Taiyin Spleen Yang Mountain Jinxing Skill, Shaoyin Kidney Yin Ice Soul Divine Light, before the Golden Elixir period. There will be great benefits in entering the Golden Elixir period at that time. Qinjianzi sold a question about the specific benefits. To get to the point, the returning to the true sutra is also a fundamental part of the true teachings of Taoism, and there is no foundation for refining weapons and alchemy, which is truly regrettable. Shi Xian put aside the returning to the true sutra and suddenly realized that if he were to major in the treasure record, in the future, Su Laodao's lineage would be lost. Although he had no actual relationship with Su Laodao as a master disciple, Su Laodao's care for Dubai was also seen through memory fragments. Since he is now his own body, he must feel his kindness and repay his kindness. It seems that he can only wait until he travels around the world in the future to find another talented and beautiful jade to inherit the lineage. Shi Xian looked at something else. This was a stack of tied-up talismans, about 10 pieces, which were self-defense items prepared by Su Laodao for his disciples in his last year. It should be noted that although he could use spells during the qi-nourishing and soul-strengthening period, the spells at this time required many steps and a long time, so he often drew the talismans in advance. At that time, only a spell or even a little soul power was needed to stimulate the talismans. As a master in the period of coming out of the body, Su Laodao would definitely leave behind many more talismans than Shi Xian's disciple. Shi Xian carefully examined the seal script, which consisted of 17 chapters, including 4 types of hidden qi talismans, earth-absorbing armor talismans, qi-inducing thunder talismans, and golden light soul-breaking talismans. The other one is a talisman seal written in ancient cloud seal script. There are ancient thunder patterns and contents of ancient cloud seal script in the treasure record. Tai thunderbolt in the sky, with faint thunder light on it. The handwriting is ancient and simple, and it does not look like it could be drawn by Su Laodao. It was either inherited when the true transmission was obtained, or it was obtained through external travel adventures. The last thing was a mirror and a piece of paper pasted by the old Taoist on it. It was written that this mirror was obtained by the old Taoist from a deserted temple in the Laoshan area of Hushi. This mirror had been fixed in the temple for 100 years, but for decades, the old ghost had been unknown. When the old Taoist passed by, he moved the mirror and let the old ghost out of trouble. There was a fierce battle, and the old Taoist almost died. In the end, he used one of the 2 Tai Thunderbolt talismans he obtained when encountering the true story to kill the 100-year-old ghost. The mirror was also affected and shattered. Although Su Laodao couldn't recognize the material of the mirror, he eventually picked up the largest fragment of the mirror and remade it into a new one. However, it no longer had the same power as before and could no longer be used as an algorithmic tool. It was only because of his innate supernatural abilities that a certain weak ghost was determined. However, it was precisely because the materials were very good that Su Laodao planned to leave them for his disciples, so that if there were opportunities in the future, he would never be able to practice them again and become a magical tool. As mentioned earlier, before the Golden Elixir period, there were various steps to casting spells. Although as one's realm improved, it would save a lot of casting time. However, some people always thought of casting slowly, so they came up with various alternative methods, such as talismans and seals, as well as magical tools. Borrowing external items to practice divine powers on treasure records can also be considered as an alternative method. Magic tools, made with appropriate materials, appropriate prohibitions, and time spent refining, are highly powerful and convenient to use, making them the most favored item among cultivators. Of course, it is also a precious anomaly. The objects of magic tools are divided into 4 levels. Magic tools, spiritual tools, magic treasures, and spiritual treasures. The corresponding Earth Sha prohibition is used to refine magical tools. When the Earth Sha of the magical tool is fully integrated into the Heavenly Gang prohibition, it is advanced to a spiritual tool. Only then can we continue to refine the Heavenly Gang prohibition. The prohibitions for magic treasures and spiritual treasures are called treasure prohibitions and spiritual prohibitions, respectively. Overall, magical and spiritual tools are considered to be objects of the Qi cultivation period, while magical and spiritual treasures are objects of the Yuan Shan period. After inspecting the relics left by the old Taoist, Shi Xian put the scriptures close to his body, and placed the talismans and seals in the hidden pockets of his belt and sleeve for easy access. Only the mirror was received in his own package. Now, there are no other suitable materials or refining techniques, and the thought tool is drooling and useless. Shi Xian took a short rest, and it was time for the medicinal herbs to be cooked. End of this chapter. Chapter 4. Drug Testing and Starting Forging, for Collection. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4 Drug Testing and Starting Foraging, for collection. As soon as he got to the kitchen, Shi Xian suddenly thought of some air-borne poison that might appear later. He stopped quickly, endured the pain and stuck a piece of earth to himself. After being aroused, he saw the ground squirm, the lus crawled from the foot to the body, and his breathing was covered with a layer of lus, which looked like a terracotta warrior's. At the same time, he cast a dust removal spell on his face before continuing towards the kitchen. As soon as I stepped into the kitchen, the fragrance of medicine filled my nose, and I smelled that all 3 doses of medicine were non-toxic and pollution-free. Write the 3 big characters A, B, and C on the medication jars of Shi Xian, and then find the 3 bowls and write A, B, and C on the edge of each bowl. Stick the dustproof talisman you previously drew on the tray and activate it. Then force the medicine solution into their respective bowls. Shi Xian thought proudly, although it was in ancient times without a laboratory environment, sterile operations could still be carried out. The Taoist method is indeed magical. Carrying a tray and entering the yard, he stopped at the corner where the 4 dogs were tied. He placed the tray on the ground, pinched the mantra in his hand, took a 7-star step on his feet, murmured a curse in his mouth, and mobilized his body energy. After a moment, he used an immobilization spell to immobilize the 4 dogs. Shi Xian quickly poured 3 bowls of medicine into the 2 black and 1 yellow dogs, and then retreated to the side, waiting for the efficacy to show. After a few breaths, one of the black dogs suddenly spasmed all over, foaming at the mouth, leaving blood in its eyes, struggling but unable to move. In less than a moment, there was no movement, only because of the effectiveness of the immobilization spell, it still stood there and did not fall. Shi Xian sweated profusely. Fortunately we conducted experiments. Let's see if this thing can be sold for a good price as a highly toxic secret recipe in the future. As for why you don't use it yourself in the future, the main reason is that looking at this effect, there is no turning into a pool of blood or emitting a burst of yellow smoke. It seems that it can also deal with ordinary people and martial artists, and it is difficult to say what good effect it has on cultivators with certain cultivation. At this point, the other 2 dogs both appeared to be mentally excited, with red eyes and began barking, and there was nothing wrong with it. But after only a while, the yellow dog suddenly struggled to break free from the power of the fixed body curse, and began to run around the yard frantically. If it weren't for the high wall, it would probably have jumped out directly. Shi Xian observed for a moment and was about to come forward and compare the remaining black dog. The yellow dog ran slower and slower, and finally sobbed and fell to the ground without any movement. Shi Xian approached and carefully examined, only to find that he had fainted, but his body was weak, as if he had exhausted a lot of energy. This prescription looks more like a stimulant, harmful to the body and not beneficial. Shi Xian returned to the corner and kept observing the remaining black dog until the fixed curse power passed. The black dog only emitted a layer of black material from its body, and after the curse power passed, it appeared lively and lively. Now Shi Xian has a clear idea of the prescription, but for safety reasons, he plans to stay up one more night and check on the condition of the 2 dogs tomorrow. Because the medicinal herbs used in the medicine bath and the oral formula are the same, with only different proportions, we can now determine the medicine bath formula. However, caution is the first priority, so let's try the remaining dog first. The results of the experiment were very satisfactory to Shi Xian. After taking the medicine bath, the yellow dog did not show any adverse symptoms. It just rubbed its bones around like an itch, but it recovered in the evening. Shi Xian speculated that this was a manifestation of the medicine penetrating the skin. After running around all day, Shi Xian was also very tired. After going out for dinner, he came back to meditate and rest for a moment before falling asleep. There was nothing to say overnight. The next day, Shi Xian got up early in the morning. The 2 dogs who had taken the medicine were still living well, but the yellow dog who had taken suspected stimulants looked much older, lying in the corner listless. Shi Xian has confirmed the efficacy of the medicine, and his heart is at ease. Today, he will start his physical training. The body and soul of a person have a mysterious and close connection, so it is often seen that people with strong bodies have better spirits, while those with weak bodies have lethargic spirits. Strengthening the body and nourishing the soul is achieved through practicing various external skills to strengthen the body and replenish the soul. When the body exercises to a certain limit, internal qi naturally arises, and at the same time, the soul breaks through the realm and enters the period of nourishing qi and strengthening soul. If the body does not exercise to the limit and forcibly practices the secret of internal skills to enter the qi nourishing period, it will leave hidden injuries due to the body's inability to withstand the consumption of refining essence and transforming qi. In severe cases, it will deplete the body and lead to tuberculosis. Of course, after entering the period of nourishing qi, it is still necessary to supplement a large amount of nutrients every day to make up for the consumption of refining qi. Otherwise, if the body only exits but cannot enter, various illnesses will also occur. Therefore, martial artists need to consume a lot of resources, and those without money or power support will find it difficult to practice advanced martial arts. After lunch, Shi Xian looked at the bowl of medicine placed in front of him, calmed down for a moment, drank it in one breath, then took off his Taoist robe and walked naked into the courtyard. At this moment, Shi Xian felt the medicine turn into a wave of heat spreading to every corner of his body after drinking it. He positioned himself and began practicing the starting style of the 10 Dragons Demon Subduing Fist in the Treasure Record. Because Shi Xian had already familiarized himself with the 10 moves of the 10 Dragons Demon Suppression Fist in the morning, he was quite proficient at this time, starting with the Manlong Turning Waist and the Qinglong Fubo all the way to the Golden Dragon Swinging Tail and the Heavenly Dragon Descending. With each move of his fist technique, Shi Xian felt the heat flowing in conjunction with his fist. Often, with each move, the most tense and powerful areas of his muscles would receive more heat flow. Under the pressure of internal and external forces, dirt inside his body would spread out from his pores with the combination of fist technique and heat flow. Shi Xian felt more and more relaxed as he fought. He practiced the 10 Dragons Demon Suppression Fist from beginning to end, more than 10 times, and the more he fought, the slower it became. Eventually, it became like practicing Tai Chi in later generations. However, Shi Xian felt that it was slowing down at this moment, and with the help of the medicine, he only felt that the corners of his body and the inner layers of his muscles, which he had not exercised before, began to tremble with his fist. If someone else were to look, they would notice that at this moment, Shi Xian's body was filled with hot air, and his whole body seemed to be shrouded in a thin mist. The area with the most hot air on his head was like white smoke rising upwards. Surrounded by the wind, a circle of over 10 meters was blown on the ground. Shi Xian's punches slowed down to the extreme and then began to increase in speed. In the end, when he punched out, the wind whistled and the sound of his joints was as dense as stir-fried beans. Gradually, Shi Xian entered a state of emptiness, as if he could see his own soul and body. The soul was inside, and the body was outside. Every punch felt like the body and soul were hitting together. At the same time, the power of the body's qi and blood continued to nourish the soul inward, making it gradually grow stronger. Shi Xian is getting more and more relaxed, and his spirit is getting better and better. It seems that there is a breath in his heart that wants to gush out. Once the golden dragon swings its tail, the left hand pulls, the body turns, and the muscles of his whole body are exerting force. The right hand leans down like Mount Tai, which is just a move of heavenly dragon coming into the world. With a punch, both the strength of the body and the breath in the heart seem to be released from this punch. Only a crisp sound in the air was heard, and a gust of wind blew out, breaking a small branch of a tree 2 feet away. After this punch was punched, Shi Xian stopped and felt extremely happy. His muscles were sore all over his body but full of strength, but his body was covered in sweat and a layer of black dirt, which made him feel uncomfortable. Shi Xian quickly walked to the well, poured a bucket of water, and found a cloth to wipe off the dirt on his body, feeling refreshed all over. Because the medicinal bath was timed and just right, Shi Xian came to the kitchen, stepped into the vat, and sat cross-legged. I feel that as the temperature rises, the medicine seeps from the skin into the muscles, and there is a tendency for it to penetrate deeper into the bones. According to the treasure record, Shi Xian's ability to regulate his breath and feel the balance and interaction of the body as a whole is actually a meaning of qi in practicing qi, which controls and coordinates the power of various parts of the body to eliminate harm and restore balance to the body. Shi Xian endured the discomfort of numbness and itching while regulating his breath, feeling the power of various parts of his body, and controlling his body to always be in a state of overall balance. In this state, anything that disrupts the body's balance and causes harm will be excreted due to the body's transition to a state of balance. There is its limit, so the harmful ingredients in the medicine should be in moderation. This is also a valuable aspect of a prescription. Therefore, the harmful parts of the external medicine are slowly excreted from the body. Of course, during the process of excreting the body, harmful substances deep in the body, such as bones, are also taken away, and the beneficial parts of the external medicine replace these substances to nourish the body. It should be noted that when regulating breathing and practicing qi, it is difficult to expel harmful substances from deep within the bones, because these harmful substances have not reached a level that harms the balance of the body. Only when the body becomes stronger and the qi reaches a very strong level can some be expelled, and this level may take Shi Xian 1 or 2 realms to reach. Amidst the numbness and itching, Shi Xian maintained this state of regulating his breath. Practicing qi at this intensity also had certain benefits for his soul. It wasn't until half an hour later that he felt the medicinal power gradually fading away. Shi Xian walked out of the tank, wiped his body dry, and felt a surge of lightness and comfort. His spirit was ethereal, his perception was sharp, and his soul strength had slightly improved. At the same time, his previous small internal injury had healed. It should be noted that it was originally estimated that it would take half a month to recover, which is the benefit of practicing qi. After a day of physical exercise, Shi Xian felt the strength of his body and soul before going to bed. He preliminarily judged that if he came twice a day in the morning and evening, he would be able to enter the period of nourishing qi and strengthening soul in 5 months. At the same time, his body strength was definitely much better than before. After all, the 10 Dragons Demon Suppression Fist and this prescription were much better than before, and he could practice areas that he couldn't before. At the same time, the effect of practicing in the same area was also much better. It is truly the content of the Supreme Dharma. I just feel like I haven't grasped the essence of this martial arts yet when practicing the 10 Dragons Demon Subduing Fist, and I need to work even harder. In the following months, Shi Xian lived in seclusion, staying in the yard all the time except for eating, buying medicine, and going out. He practiced the 10 Dragons Demon Suppression Fist twice a day, and in his spare time, he reviewed various techniques he had learned before. His body and soul had greatly improved. At the same time, recalling Su Laodao's teachings and knowledge, preparing for future travels around the world to search for immortals and ask questions. End of this chapter. Chapter 5. The Method of Visualization, Seeking Collection. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5. The Method of Visualization, Seeking Collection. Since April, there hasn't been much interaction between Shi Xian and the neighbors, which means that every day when going out to eat, Aunt Zhang mentioned her daughter several times, but Shi Xian's reaction was cold and he didn't mention it again. Talking to the neighbors is just a matter of gossip, such as the emperor recruiting talented individuals from all over the world to compile a book of cultivation. Mr. Jiang wrote another popular poem in Hangzhou. The new storybook of Shanai Sanren tells the story of love between humans and ghosts, and the tea house repeats it every day, making it very popular. There is a Qixia god temple in Liangzhou that is very spiritual in seeking marriage, but unfortunately it is too far away. The widow, surnamed Wu, across the street married another merchant from the western regions, with a high nose and deep eyes, looking terrifying, what else are there about Zhang's parents, Li's family, and Wang's daughter. In law being lazy and so on. On the morning of October in the late autumn, Shi Xian drank the Qianyuan marrow exchange soup and began to play the 10 Dragons demon suppression fist in the small courtyard. After so long of practice, he quickly entered a state and more clearly grasped the feelings of his body and soul. Manlong turns his waist, Qinglong Fubo, Huolong burns the sky, and Bailong freezes the sea. Each move of his fist exercises his body deeper, but the feeling of not grasping the essence of his spirit becomes stronger and stronger. He has not crossed this hurdle for the past 4 months, and it seems that there is a strong energy in his heart that cannot be expressed. When the dragon reached the sky, it suddenly entered a state of emptiness and darkness. Fist followed heart, heart followed spirit, and spirit followed soul thinking. Essence, qi, spirit, and soul seem to be closely connected, and the feeling of not being able to grasp the essence of the spirit seemed to be able to be broken in one go. Shi Xian concentrated all his strength, drank heavily, and used a move called Black Dragon playing in the water, as if breaking a layer of barrier. At the same time, he felt a vast and ancient simplicity, ranging from great to deep. It seems that even water in the air can manipulate the dragon's aura with this punch. After this punch was struck, there was a slight sound from the bones on Shi Xian's body, which lasted for a while before stopping. It was a sign of strength penetrating the bone marrow and connecting the joints, which was a manifestation of great physical strength. Shi Xian originally could only control his muscles and bones, but now he feels that the power of his soul has greatly increased, making him more sensitive and able to control the depths of his bones and subtle corners of his body. At this moment, many streams of hot energy rose from the bone marrow and penetrated into the internal organs. Shi Xian was overjoyed and dared not neglect it. He closed his eyes and regulated his breath, controlling these hot energies to move through the 5 organs, cross the 12 meridians, and finally return to the Dantian. I just closed my eyes and finished work, my face full of joy, and unexpectedly took this opportunity to break through to the period of nourishing qi and strengthening soul. At the same time, because the physical body had previously mastered the 8 extraordinary meridians, but due to the death of the soul, the original internal energy had also dissipated. This means that Shi Xian no longer needs to work hard to connect the 8 extraordinary meridians one by one, saving a lot of time. Generally speaking, it takes about 15 years for internal experts in the martial arts world to accumulate internal qi and connect with the 8 extraordinary meridians. This still requires good personal qualifications, not being addicted to others, and practicing diligently. Those with poor qualifications require longer time. So there are many inner experts who, even in their lifetime, are unable to connect the 8 extraordinary meridians. As for those with abundant talents and adventures, it will take 7 or 8 years to complete. Why can do by connect the 8 extraordinary meridians in just 3 years? There are 3 reasons. Firstly, I practice the true teachings of Taoism, which is vastly different from advanced martial arts secrets, and it is the difference between immortals and mortals. Secondly, the cultivation of Taoist martial arts relies heavily on techniques, talismans, seals, and magical tools for combat. Regardless of the internal skills of martial arts, they still have the effect of seriously injuring the enemy. Nourishing the soul leads to a strong soul, which is more effective in controlling internal qi. When internal qi is well controlled, the effect of unblocking meridians is much better. Although internal skills still have the effect of nourishing the soul, the main goal is to harm people and retreat from enemies. Nourishing the soul is a side effect, and the effect varies depending on the purpose. Thirdly, Dubai himself has good qualifications, otherwise he wouldn't have been favored by Su Laodao as a disciple. Since Shi Xian has entered the nourishing qi period, the medicinal soup and bath can be stopped. This natural state of entering the nourishing qi period indicates that the body has reached a limit at this stage, which is actually harmful. The next step is to accumulate internal qi, transform the essence of the body, and naturally replenish the body, slowly strengthening the body. At the same time, it is necessary to increase daily meat consumption to ensure the need for refining in qi. After the 12 meridians of the main meridian and the 8 meridians of the extraordinary meridian are filled with internal qi, the other small meridians are opened up to form a postnatal cycle, which is the peak state of the nourishing qi period. At this point, Shi Xian's soul strength can also begin to imagine. However, Shi Xian did not immediately return to the room to meditate, as there were delays and anxieties in his cultivation. Shi Xian finally broke through the realm, and it was precisely when he was full of joy that forcibly calmed down and meditated, which was actually harmful. Moreover, since coming into this world, Shi Xian has always felt a sense of crisis. His own strength is not enough to protect himself, so he rarely goes out except for eating and buying medicine. He is holding back to improve his own strength, otherwise when he goes out and encounters something without the corresponding strength to support him, he will inevitably feel frustrated. This can be seen as a manifestation of the aftermath of the time traveler. Now that Shi Xian has finally broken through the period of nourishing qi, he is also considered a master in the martial arts world. With the addition of his magical talismans and seals, he is more than enough to protect himself. Only then did he let go of most of the pressure in his heart. Therefore, this is the time for Shi Xian to relax and rest, and it is not suitable for practicing martial arts. Shi Xian sat on the ground, with his back against the small well. In his right hand, he held a small pot of yellow wine that had been dug out of Su Laodao's room, and in his left hand, he held a scroll of Jin Kuei Zi talks about various ghosts and gods, collected by a senior Taoist in Su Laodao's collection. It not only talked about what foreign ghosts and gods were, but also gave various anecdotes about ghosts and monsters, creating a strong atmosphere of chatting and studying. At this moment, autumn is clear and refreshing, with a gentle breeze blowing in. Reading 1 or 2 pages of books, taking a sip of yellow wine, and when reading with enthusiasm, shaking one's head, there is plenty of leisure to read about Huang Ting's carefree lifestyle. People in this world have no reincarnation after death. If there is no one to worship them, their souls will slowly lose their memory after 7 days, slowly merge into the world after 10 days, and completely dissipate after 100 days. Unless there is great resentment and obsession, or they encounter a place of yin energy, they can stabilize their souls and transform into yin ghosts. However, the souls of cultivators are devoured by heaven and earth, and when they die, their souls will be destroyed. Unless they practice until they reach the period of yin gods, they can resist this heavenly way. So, people offer multiple sacrifices, and enjoying the sacrifices and offerings of a family can ensure that the soul will not perish for several years. The more people offer sacrifices, the longer the time it will not perish. However, unless one can understand the power of converting the incense and fire of the sacrifice into their own path, it will only last for 100 years at most. These souls worshipped are collectively referred to as ghosts and gods. Those who have a great deal of resentment and obsession gradually become ghosts. Obsession is revenge, while behavior relies on obsession, and there are rarely those who have consciousness and clarity. Of course, there are also a few who maintain their consciousness because obsession is not fierce, but cultivation is unconscious. Generally speaking, the older they get, the more powerful they become. Those who do not have consciousness will gradually become wise after 10 years. Those who encounter a place of yin energy, like before, gradually become yin ghosts, but the difference is that they do not have a desire for revenge, have divine intelligence and wisdom, but their cultivation is not inherited. To survive, one must consume blood, food, yang energy, or the power of the soul. These two types, along with the souls that did not disappear 100 days ago, are collectively referred to as external ghosts and gods. Because they need to consume blood, food, yang energy, or soul power, external ghosts and gods often harm people. However, if their cultivation is not enough, they often cannot get close to people with strong qi and blood, and their yin soul bodies will be burned by the strong qi and blood when they get close, and in severe cases, they will fly into ashes. At the same time, the external ghosts and gods who have not reached the stage of leaving the body often take advantage of the cultivator's cultivation to arouse their emotions, causing them to become demonic and become possessed, giving them the opportunity to absorb the spiritual power of the cultivators. The ability of external ghosts and gods to evoke emotions in others is their innate talent and can be unleashed from a distance. So there are mainly three ways to deal with this talent. One is to arrange formations to isolate the inside and outside, but Shi Xian doesn't know this now. Secondly, when practicing, one should concentrate and avoid distractions during meditation, which will not have much effect on stimulating emotions. Thirdly, there is a magical tool to suppress the ownership of the soul, but neither does Shi Xian. Although that's the case, the Ningxian sandalwood fragrance secretly made by Su Lao Dao can also help concentrate and slightly suppress the ghosts and gods of the external world. Therefore, overall, as long as Shi Xian doesn't think recklessly during cultivation, there won't be any danger. And as long as one's mind is not lost, even if there is a slight mistake and their soul is injured, they must immediately withdraw from the focus. Shi Xian had a pleasant day, and by evening, he had already restrained his mind, and his whole state had reached a peak. Taking a bath, changing clothes, burning incense, and paying homage to heaven and earth, through this series of steps, both the heart and mind reach a state of ethereal tranquility. Of course, after becoming proficient or having advanced cultivation in the future, there is no need for so many complicated steps. Often, one can reach this state of ethereal tranquility with just a breath. Shi Xian sat cross-legged on the cattail, closed his eyes and focused, embracing Yuan Shi, and soon entered the center of concentration. After entering Dingzhong, I began to observe and recall the divine intention of the clear wind and bright moon depicted in the clear wind and bright moon shining to the divine Dharma in the treasure record. In the initial few times, I always thought about it halfway, but then had other thoughts, and then failed, just like an ordinary person trying to concentrate on something, but always scattered their thoughts, and then woke up and returned to the original place. Shi Xian was not discouraged, knowing that this was a normal thing, and began to practice the method of restraining thoughts recorded in the clear wind and bright moon shining to the God's true Dharma. He imagined himself as the ruler of his height, looking down on his many thoughts. Many thoughts came and went, filling the entire sea of consciousness. As the ruler, he restrained these thoughts in the sea of consciousness, no longer fluctuating. Here, it is not necessary to eliminate all thoughts. If all thoughts are eliminated, it may eventually become a stone without thoughts or emotions. What is emphasized here is the absolute control of the original God, which is high and above, controlling these thoughts to no longer rise and fall, and calmly observing thoughts as they disappear but cannot jump out of control. So the highest level that needs to be achieved here is not one mind cannot produce the void realm, but one mind cannot afford the void realm. This is exactly a true saying, a false transmission of thousands of books. At the same time, this is also the main way to recognize the God. Following this method, Shi Xian subdued various thoughts in his ethereal state, making them unable to jump out of their place despite being born and destroyed in the sea of consciousness. Gradually, Shi Xian felt that his thoughts were only focused, and he began to think of the God of clear wind and bright moon. End of this chapter. Chapter 6. Clear breeze soothing the gods and bright moon illuminating the soul. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6. Clear breeze soothing the gods and bright moon illuminating the soul. The method of visualization is not to visualize the shape of the clear wind and bright moon, but to visualize its divine intention. A refreshing and carefree breeze, caressing but not intense, awakening the mind without harming the soul. The bright moon shines in the sky, enduring forever. The essence of the Tai Yin nourishes all things. The soul of Shi Xian seemed to sit cross over the sea of consciousness, surrounded by a clear breeze that came in the early morning. The spirit was uplifted, and the breeze blew through the soul, taking away all the acquired impurities it usually had. At the same time, various emotions such as anxiety, unease, excitement, and anger came and went due to events and dispersed by the wind. It no longer left a mark on the ignorance of the original God, and gradually emerged as a thoroughly clear soul. The bright moon on the top is like a wheel, turning slowly, driving the internal chi into it, and then like rain falling from the sky, falling down the essence of the bright moon, pouring on the soul. The soul of Shi Xian absorbs the essence of the bright moon falling on it with the rhythm of the breeze, nourishes its soul, and then the breeze takes away the impurities. So I don't know how long it took, when Shi Xian felt that his soul had grown a lot, and at the same time, his absorption of essence had reached saturation, he ended the visualization and withdrew from the focus. The soul is intangible without substance, while the internal chi is intangible with substance. There is a huge gap between the two, and it is difficult for the internal chi to directly nourish the soul. Even if it is chi and blood nourishing the soul, it is because of the mysterious connection between the body and the soul that it can be completed. Therefore, it is necessary to build a bridge between soul and internal chi through visualization to transform internal chi into essence that soul can absorb. Of course, these are just some functions of visualization at this stage. When the realm becomes more advanced, we can directly absorb the essence of heaven and earth and comprehend the laws of heaven and earth by introspection and drawing its corresponding laws of heaven and earth. After waking up from his calmness, Shi Xian calmed down a bit and found that the accumulated internal chi had already been consumed by 70.88% today. He quickly began to transport the internal chi according to the chi circulation route of the 12 rivers, 8 lakes, and 72 great rivers recorded in the treasure record. Of course, now he can only follow the Shao Zhou Tian route contained in the 12 normal meridians and the 8 extraordinary meridians. Shi Xian concentrated his mind and controlled the internal chi to flow out of the dantian. He felt that after this contemplation, his soul had grown stronger and his control of the internal chi had become more skillful. After a few weeks of practicing chi, the internal chi continuously absorbs the heat that escapes from various parts of the body, which has doubled in strength and is several times more efficient than previous methods of practicing chi. After 365 small zhou days of chi circulation, Shi Xian finally stopped. Such a large cycle of chi circulation is just right, and the dissipated heat has just been absorbed. If you continue to circulate chi, you may need to transform the body's origin. Based on the internal energy accumulated during the Great Zhou heavenly movement and the internal energy consumed for visualizing and strengthening the soul, Shi Xian estimated that it would take more than 4 months to accumulate the 12 normal meridians and 8 extraordinary meridians, while the time to open the 70.2 small meridians was about 7 months according to the Jade Shu 12 Rivers and 8 Lake 70.2 Great River Movement Chi secret record. In addition, how long it will take for the soul to grow to the peak of the soul strengthening period. Previously, Dubai had no experience, so Shi Xian couldn't estimate it because he had no idea what the strength of the soul at the peak of the soul strengthening period was. The troublesome problem now is that it will cost about 2 taels of silver to replenish the food consumed every day, which can be used to clean up a good banquet at the restaurant. However, Shi Xian now doesn't require good craftsmanship or ingredients, but only 2 taels of silver. It can be imagined how much he has eaten, and the neighbors are amazed that Shi Xian's appetite has doubled compared to before. In terms of time, it takes about 700 taels of silver for Shi Xian to complete his qi nourishing period. However, after purchasing medicine and forging his body and consuming it for the past few months, he only has less than 400 taels of silver left, leaving a gap of 300 taels of silver. It should be noted that the annual income of an ordinary family in a mansion is only 20.30 taels of silver. But at this time, Shi Xian doesn't want to go out and find any job to make money. He is now at a time when he can clearly see progress in his daily cultivation, and he wants to practice every day as 2 days. After careful consideration, Shi Xian decided to sell the small courtyard. After all, when the cultivation was successful, he would travel around the world to search for immortals and seek enlightenment. Apart from entrusted to the care of the Su Lao Dao clan, the small courtyard was not meant to be sold. The value of the small courtyard is around 280 taels, and I am not in a hurry to sell it. I have enough silver in my hand to use it for 7 or 8 months. Slowly looking for a buyer, I should be able to sell it for a good price. After deducting the expenses of the dental shop, yamen management, and deed tax, I should be able to receive 240 taels of silver in the end. In addition, after selling the small courtyard, I still need to rent a clean house for about 4 months, which will cost me more than 10 taels of silver. Oh, it looks like I still need about 80 taels of silver. Well, if you steal from a wealthy person or something, it's not difficult to do it with your own Taoist techniques, and you won't leave any clues. It's just that you've been used to abiding by laws and regulations, and it seems difficult to make up your mind to do it. Let's keep this method until the end if it really can't be used anymore. If we reach that point, we won't have any psychological burden ourselves. In this way, while hanging a sign selling small courtyards at the dental shop, Shi Xian asked Lu, the shop owner, to help invite his friends who worked in the yamen to have a meal together, and got to know each other. In the future, when selling houses and paying deed taxes at the yamen, he would not be heavily blacklisted. Of course, Shi Xian's main energy was still focused on cultivation. He never slackened a bit in his daily Qi Mi Lu of the 12 rivers, 8 lakes, and 72 great rivers, and Qin Feng Ming Yu Zhao Shenzhen Fa. In the past 5 months, his soul strength has rapidly improved, and he is no longer exhausted after applying 1 or 2 spells when he first arrived. There has also been great progress in the internal energy, not only accumulating the 12 meridians of the main meridian and the 8 meridians of the extraordinary meridians, but finally successfully opening up a small meridian after several failures, and it went unstoppable, continuously opening up 12 meridians. At noon that day, after having lunch, Shi Xian returned to the small courtyard. Before he could sit down, he heard the sound of the doorknob knocking on the courtyard door. Shi Xian thought it was the dentist who brought people to see the courtyard. Because they had to practice every day, Shi Xian and the dentist arranged to bring people to see the courtyard after noon, and for no more than an hour. The dental firm has brought people to visit several times before, but they have not reached an agreement on the price. Shi Xian is not in a hurry, and the money in hand can still be used for 2 or 3 months. Shi Xian opened the courtyard door, and to his surprise, the person outside was not a dentist, but an acquaintance, a handsome young man in his 20s wearing a brocade robe. Before Su Lao Dao went out to search for immortals, he created a new martial art called Guozian Gong, based on the Guozian Jing, which combines both internal and external cultivation, and stayed in his own clan. Before, the Su Lao Dao family was just a relatively wealthy merchant family, often extorted by the rivers and lakes. Later, based on this martial arts, they collected some secret techniques and developed several masters, gradually gaining fame in the rivers and lakes. They sat in the Xi'an mansion, bought land, managed silk and cloth, and secretly smuggled salt, which can be considered as a powerful faction. Just because Su Lao Dao himself is not very good at martial arts, the secret scripts he wrote still have shortcomings in hurting people, and there are not many good supporting techniques, so the Su family can only be considered a third-rate family in the martial arts world. 10 years ago, Su Lao Dao returned to Xi'an Mansion. Although he did not return to his family to live, he also did not sever ties with the family. The Su family was very flattering towards this old ancestor, not only bringing filial piety in other gifts every month and during festivals, but also selecting many high-quality children from within the family to send to this immortal like old ancestor's professor. Learning a little bit of immortal teachings from the old ancestor is considered a great blessing. Unfortunately, although these children have good talent, they don't seem to have a great understanding of Taoism. Instead, they learn physical fitness and qi cultivation very quickly. Su Lao Dao himself had great expectations for his family to have another monk, but this situation continued to dispel his worries and he focused on teaching Dubai. As for those children, they were all sent back to the Su family after reaching the stage of cultivating their energy, and the Su family was not allowed to send the children over again. However, Su Lao Dao also revised the content of Guozian Gong, based on his experience of fighting or discussing with martial arts experts outside in recent years, and added the collected secret techniques, which can be considered as an explanation to the Su family. The young man who came to our door today is the most talented among those children back then. Su Tianqi. At the age of 10, he was sent over and entered the Qi cultivation period in just 6 years. Unfortunately, after entering the Qi cultivation period, he was completely indifferent to the cultivation of visualization and only focused on the cultivation of internal Qi. In addition, he is also the Qi cultivation method of the new, returning to the true art. After 2 years, there was no significant progress in Taoist techniques, so he was sent back to the Su family by Su Laodao. In the martial arts world, none of the disciples who can enter the period of nourishing Qi before the age of 20 are talented disciples of famous sections. Therefore, Su Tianqi's realm as a master within the age of 18 has been very popular in the martial arts world. Su Tianqi likes this feeling very much and has been wandering in the martial arts world ever since. With some adventures, he has also gained a huge reputation, being praised by many as a young master who can rank in the top 20. Su Tianqi was actually not very convinced in secret. He thought that the Su family, who did not come from his own background, could only be considered second-rate now, after obtaining the new Guasian skill. Although we have not yet been able to connect the Ren and Du meridians, which are the starting points of the 8 extraordinary meridians, our internal strength is still among the top 10, and the title of the 4th young master of the Wulin cannot be ignored. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. Ghosts that don't harm people. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7. Ghosts that don't harm people. Before Shi Xian's physical body, Du Bai and Su Tianqi had been classmates for 8 years and had a good relationship with each other. However, Su Tianqi wandered the world and did not meet again until Su Laodao passed away and the Su family held a funeral, when Du Bai finally saw Su Tianqi again. It's been almost a year since then until now. Because Shi Xian received the true transmission of Su Laodao, which the Su family is familiar with and knows about the magic of Taoism, it was not because after the funeral that Shi Xian politely declined their invitation to come and cause trouble, but he also maintained an indifferent attitude. Senior brother Su, haven't seen you for a long time, have you always been okay? Although Shi Xian was surprised for a moment, he quickly restrained his emotions. Su Tianqi felt a little embarrassed, but quickly concealed the past and said with a smile, "Junior brother Du, I have been wandering in the martial arts world for these years and have very few days at home. You have been practicing martial arts in seclusion, so I think you have made great progress." Shi Xian saw that Su Tianqi seemed to have something to do, so he said, "If senior brother Su doesn't mind, come inside and have some tea." Su Tianqi breathed a slight sigh of relief and said, "I'm very happy." The two of them entered the small courtyard. As Su Tianqi was quite familiar with the place and knew it well, Shi Xian took him to sit at the stone table in the corner of the courtyard, and then went into the kitchen to brew a pot of tea before returning. After filling each person with tea, Shi Xian smiled and said, "Senior brother Su has such a great reputation in the martial arts world. I, a little Taoist who doesn't leave home and doesn't hear anything outside the window, have heard of it." No, it's just giving face to friends in the martial arts world," Su Tianqi said politely, but his proud expression did not show any restraint. How could it be? In the restaurant, you often hear senior brother Su chasing Pink Swallow for 3, 6, 2 days and nights, and finally executing this lecherous thief. As if scratched to the itch, Su Tianqi suddenly became excited and recounted what Shi Xian had heard several times. However, from the perspective of the person at that time, it had a unique flavor. Shi Xian deliberately guided the conversation, and the two of them talked lively about Su Tianqi's wandering in the martial arts world. When Su Tianqi returned to Xian Mansion with a few more guests, Su Tianqi appeared with a slightly awkward expression outside the door. After hesitating for a while, they saw that Shi Xian was only smiling and drinking tea, so they had to speak up. "Junior brother Du, I came here to ask for something." I will definitely repay you well after the matter is completed. Shi Xian smiled and said, "Oh, what senior brother Su can't do, how can I, as a little Taoist, do?" Su Tianqi smiled apologetically and said, "Junior brother Du, you have learned a great skill from your ancestors, and this is exactly the right thing for you." Then, before Shi Xian could answer, he continued, "I came home this time with a few friends from the martial arts world. But how did I know that after coming back, I was discovered by the annoying ghost from the Xia family in the north of the city, who would come knocking around Yuqiong all day and often provoke me. You don't know, junior brother Du, that Xia Wenhui is really despicable. If it weren't for our two families being people in the building and conspiring to do some business privately, the clan would have restrained us from fighting each other. I must give him a hard lesson. The Xia family was originally a wealthy figure in the Xi'an mansion, and was the influence of the famous gang Xiaolu in Jiangnan and Huainan. It is said that the Xia family was still the elder family of Xiaolu when it was founded. However, they did not produce any top experts, those who achieved great success in the future, until they gradually declined. After the Su family made a name for themselves in the martial arts world, they quickly joined Xiaolu because the Su family had many first-class experts, and Xiaolu also valued it very much. They entrusted the private salt business in this area to the Xia and Su families for cooperation. After taking a sip of tea and taking a breath, Shi Xian kept smiling and listening before continuing, "But these days, Xia Wenhui, that bastard, actually designed to provoke me. He took advantage of my excitement and made a bet with me. Whoever lost, he would say 3 times in front of Yuqiong, 'I was wrong, I'm not a person.' In private, he also had to give the other person 1,000 taels of silver. The money matter is not important, and he is afraid of losing face in front of Yuqiong." Sigh. Recently, Shi Xian, who has been troubled by money, heard a bet of 1,000 taels of silver and was slightly tempted. However, it was only a slight impulse, and his rationality was still there. Therefore, he gestured for Su Tianqi to continue speaking, and it was not too late to evaluate after listening. "Our bet this time is to go to the ghost house in Qupi, north of the city, 3 days later. Each person will take 2 people and spend the night there. Whoever gets scared and runs out of the house first will be considered a loss. Du, I know your magic is amazing, and you are the best at dealing with these ghosts. Moreover, the ghosts in this house never harm people's lives. Generally, they just scare people out of the house, but at most, they will be scared out and thrown out. Du, regardless of whether I win or not, after this matter, I will give you 500 taels of silver as a reward." Senior brother Su, when did the ghost spread there? What kind of rumors do you usually have? Shi Xian was excited when he heard about the ghost. It was the first time in his 2 lives that he might have seen a ghost. Although he knew he had set foot on the path of cultivation, ghosts, monsters, and demons should be heard and seen frequently in the future, but after all, it is very fresh now. Su Laodao's education of Dubai has always been based on cultivation, and eliminating ghosts and evil spirits is just a small detail, so he has never taken Dubai to actually eliminate ghosts and monsters. Of course, excitement returns to excitement. It is important to inquire about various rumors about this ghost in order to accurately analyze its strength, so as not to excitedly eliminate it and instead be eliminated by the ghost, which could lead to a big joke. Su Tianqi was pleased to see Shi Xian's tendency to agree, and immediately replied, "That house was burned down in a fire 13 years ago. It is said that many people were burned down at that time, but due to the large number of deaths, no one has been willing to buy this land to rebuild the house. 7 years ago, when things gradually faded away, a wealthy businessman from a state city bought the land and the adjacent land to build a large house, but it started to haunt after being repaired and moved in a few days. He invited several famous monks and Taoists, but they did not drive away the ghost. Instead, the situation became more and more intense, and the people of the wealthy businessman often. I was scared unconscious in the middle of the night, and then fell asleep on the street the next day. The wealthy businessman had no choice but to move to another place. Later, several new owners of this big house were scared and moved away. Gradually, the name of this house spread and no one dared to buy it, so it was abandoned there. After a pause, he continued, in recent years, there have been some beggars or adventurers who have gone in to live, but without exception, they have either been scared away or thrown out. After all, I have never heard that this ghost has caused anyone's life. Shi Xian judged from his years that this ghost is probably between the period of soul cultivation and soul strengthening, because firstly, this ghost is not worshipped, otherwise it cannot come out to scare people. Secondly, it has never harmed people, which means it does not require blood and food, indicating that cultivation is only at the level of being able to simply absorb some yang energy. So it is probably that some places near Tsupe River have formed places of yin energy. When encountering the obsession of burning people, they become yin ghosts. However, this is a capital city with strong popularity, so the place of yin energy is not considered a good quality, and the formed yin ghosts will not have the kind of growth rate that goes against the sky. This is just a preliminary inference. Shi Xian asked Su Tianqi some more indirect questions, mainly to determine whether the ghost's obsession was strong or weak, whether it was fierce or beautiful. Finally, Shi Xian said to Su Tianqi, "Senior brother Su, this matter has come suddenly, and I need to consider it." Seeing what Su Tianqi was going to say, he quickly gestured not to say more. "Well, this time tomorrow, I will definitely give you a reply. Even if I don't go, I will give you some talismans to be prepared for any danger." Su Tianqi saw that Shi Xian insisted and couldn't force anything, so he had to make an appointment for tomorrow and bid farewell and go home. Shi Xian tidied up and went out. This afternoon, Shi Xian went to various places in the city where there was a lot of information and inquired with the neighbors. He was able to confirm what Su Tianqi had said about this ghost, and finally felt relieved. At night, controlling my mood, after completing my studies, I checked the condition of my talisman seal on my lower body and headed straight to the winding area of Chu Peihe in the north of the city. I took a closer look at the surrounding environment of the house and then used the talisman seal to open my eyes and observe the flow of yin qi. As I had judged, it was indeed a poor quality of yin qi. However, Shi Xian did not enter the house. After all, he had decided to accompany Su Tianqi now, so there was no difference between going now and going later. As soon as noon arrived the next day, Su Tianqi couldn't wait to come to his door. Shi Xian didn't put on any airs and gave a definite answer. Su Tianqi was overjoyed and returned with 200 taels of silver as a token of his absolute commitment to winning or losing. After receiving the silver, Shi Xian calculated that even if he didn't sell the yard, he would still need enough silver for his cultivation at this stage. However, if he went out in the future, the yard would still be empty, so he definitely had to sell it, but he had more capital to wait for a better price. Moreover, according to Su Laodao's experience, even if all the meridians around the body are connected to achieve the Great Zhou Tian after birth, a large amount of ingredients are still needed every day to supplement the essence and energy. Even when entering the period of soul leaving the body, it cannot truly achieve the goal of clearing the valley. It is only more than 10 times longer than the time that ordinary people can tolerate, and they can abstain from eating for about half a year, unless they practice until they reach the period of promoting qi. So, although in the future when traveling, you can replenish your energy by playing game, it's still best to have some money on your body for emergency use. End of this chapter. Chapter 8. Ghost House. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8 Ghost House. On the evening of the agreed-upon day, Su Tianqi brought his other junior brother Mu Jin to the small courtyard of Shi Xian, with a worried and excited expression. Mu junior brother, this is Shi Xian Shi junior brother, who is a closed-door disciple of a reclusive elder in our Su family. Regarding the matter of Su Laodao, the Su family only refers to him as a reclusive elder, except for the more core members of their own clan. Shi Xian also explained to Su Tianqi that in the future, he can use his pseudonym Shi Xian. Although Su Tianqi was puzzled, he still followed suit. Hello, senior brother Shi. Mu Jin looked tall and imposing, with thick eyebrows and big eyes, looking loyal and honest. Shi junior brother, this is Mu junior brother. He is my father's 5th disciple and has the best relationship with me. He, you're so polite, junior brother Mu, Shi Xian responded with an arch of his hand. Su Tianqi approached Shi Xian and whispered, junior brother Shi, is it okay? Shi Xian smiled and said, senior brother Su, all I can say is, I'll do what I can. Su Tianqi took a step back and looked at Shi Xian. Perhaps Shi Xian's calm demeanor gave him confidence, and he smiled and said, since that's the case, let's go. Shi Xian was ready in the afternoon, with all the talismans and seals placed in his arms and sleeves. Some talismans and seals were prepared with a few, while others that were unlikely to be needed were only prepared with one. They were placed in different categories to ensure that they could be used in the first time. At this moment, he looked back and saw that there was nothing left to be prepared, so he nodded and went out with Su Tianqi and Mu Jin. Along the way, Shi Xian and Su Tianqi chatted casually, while Mu Jin rarely spoke and looked quite dull. Perhaps that's why Su Tianqi brought him along. Near the ghost house, Su Tianqi saw 5 people standing outside the door from a distance, 3 men and 2 women. His face changed and he stopped in his tracks, saying, damn it, why did Yuqiong come too? At this moment, the other party also saw this side. One of the girls, dressed in a red outfit that looked like a chili pepper, jumped up and waved to Su Tianqi. Su Tianqi couldn't avoid it and had to signal to Shi Xian before walking over. Among these 5 people, the most eye-catching one is a tall and slender girl in a lotus-colored dress, around 17 or 18 years old. She has phoenix eyes and a yao nose, and is very beautiful. In addition, the red chili pepper girl is relatively petite, with big eyes, a curled nose, and a small mouth. She looks 14 or 15 years old, very lively. The other 3 men stood slightly further away, led by the young man in a Confucian robe in the middle. Apart from his slightly pale face, he looked much more handsome than Su Tianqi. The 2 men behind him were both middle-aged men with tiger backs and strong waists, looking very fierce. You're such a funny person, Su Tianqi. You didn't even ask me and Sister Yuqiong to come together, the girl in red shouted as she saw Su Tianqi walk in. Su Tianqi quickly arched his hand and apologized, 7th sister, it's my brother's fault. I'm worried that ghosts and monsters won't be liked by your girls. The girl in a lotus-colored dress saw the girl in a red dress reluctant to speak, so she quickly grabbed her and answered first. It was Su Shixiang who was thoughtful. It was the 2 of us who were too curious. She smiled apologetically. Shi Xian looked at the girl beside him with a dazzling smile, and Su Tianqi couldn't help but say, Sister Yuqiong, why do you still call me Shixiang? Everyone has known each other for so long, just call me Tianqi. If I had known it was Sister Yuqiong, you were curious about this, I would have brought you over long ago. As he spoke, he leaned over, looking as if he had never seen a woman before. Yuqiong frowned slightly when she saw Su Tianqi approaching, looked left and right, and saw Shi Xian and Mu Jin standing next to her. She said to Su Tianqi, Brother Tianqi, I wonder who these 2 are. Su Tianqi suddenly didn't introduce himself yet and quickly said, This is the closing disciple of our sect elders, Shi Xian Shi junior brother. This is my father's 5th disciple, Mu junior brother, who is my companion today. At this moment, 3 men from a distance had just walked over and heard Su Tianqi's introduction. Among them, the white-faced scholar burst out laughing and said, Tianqi, this is the master you have hired. It's truly a young hero. Come on, let me introduce you. This is my Jian Song uncle and this is Dao Feng uncle. They are all famous figures in the martial arts world. Let's communicate more, Upon hearing the introduction, Su Tianqi's face turned blue for a while before saying, it turns out that it was the sword and sword double-kill senior on the Ganlong road back then, but the junior failed. Upon seeing Su Tianqi's reaction, the girl in red blushed and said to the scholar, Xia Wenhui, do you want to be shameless? Let's bet on it, young people. What's the point of inviting your elders and experts? My fifth brother really follows the rules. Miss Jeannie, you can't speak recklessly in front of Miss Yuqiong. I don't know when this rule was established. When I made a bet with Brother Tianqi, we never said that we couldn't invite elders to sit down. Xia Wenhui said proudly. All right, seventh sister, don't mention it, junior brother Shi. This is Meng Yuqiong, the most outstanding descendant of the Yuhua sect in this generation. This is Su Jeannie, the seventh sister of our Su family's fourth house. However, their house moved to Luojing more than 30 years ago and they rarely come back, so you haven't seen them before. Shi Xian arched his hand and greeted the two girls. Just as he was about to speak, Xia Wenhui took the words and said, Oh, Tian Qi Xian, why didn't you introduce these two young heroes to me? Do you think I don't have enough martial arts skills and can't climb high? The two fierce middle-aged men behind him stared at Shi Xian, who felt a murderous aura rushing towards him. At least he killed hundreds of people, so he had such a strong murderous aura. It's just that Shi Xian has been practicing the Zhao Shen Guan method for so long, and this level of killing pressure root has no effect on Shi Xian. Shi Xian smiled and shook his head, ignoring it. He had planned to stare back and add some small spells to make these two villains suffer some hidden losses. However, their appearance did not suit Shi Xian's taste. With that feeling, it was better to look at Yuqiong and Genie beauties. Of course, Shi Xian is not a young virgin who has been around for thousands of years. Currently, cultivation is important, and beautiful women can only nourish their eyes. Meng Yuqiong saw that Shi Xian and Mu Jin had not answered, and was afraid that Su Tianqi would be embarrassed. She quickly tried to smooth things over and smiled, since everyone has come, why don't we go in? Speaking of which, I have never seen ghosts before, and I don't know if we can achieve our goal this time. The beautiful woman spoke up, and of course Su Tianqi and Xia Wenhui had no problem. Su Jeannie must have walked with his 5 brothers, while Meng Yuqiong also had to go with her best friend. Xia Wenhui had to take his 2 elders and walk in first. Brother Tianqi, those 2 were really sword and sword double kills on the Ganlong road back then. Meng Yuqiong asked Su Tianqi as she walked. Su Tianqi, of course, knew everything and spoke without hesitation. Well, a few years ago, I heard my father mention that the sword and sword double kill somehow caused the Sword King Chu Hanshui, one of the 8 heavenly kings of the Power Money Gang, to escape to Yangzhou like a bereaved dog. Later, he joined the Xia family and relied on the power of the Shiyu Tower to avoid this murder. Su Tianqi and Meng Yuqiong were talking earlier. Su Jeannie, the little girl, took a witty step back and curiously looked at Shi Xian, saying, I said to senior brother Shi, I've been wandering around the clan every day lately, so why haven't I seen you? I've seen senior brother Mu a few times. Shi Xian could only use the excuse made up by the Su family to say, my master is a reclusive elder who enjoys tranquility and lives in a small alley in the west of the city. Of course, I also live there with him. Oh, I don't know which elder it is. After I came back, I paid my respects one by one. Which elder is your master? The little beauty in the brocade had a strong spirit of breaking the sand pot and asking to the end. Meng Yuqiong seems to be interested in this issue as well. The sharp senses brought by Shi Xian's powerful soul cultivation sensed that Meng Yuqiong had secretly shifted her attention. It should be noted that after hearing that Shi Xian was only Su Tianqi's junior brother, she didn't pay too much attention to him. Shi Xian's face straightened and he said, it has been almost a year since my master passed away. After saying these words, Shi Xian felt Meng Yuqiong's gaze slightly fall on him and turn back. Su Jeannie spat out her tongue and said, I'm sorry, senior brother Shi. By the way, I don't know what level of martial arts you've reached. How do you compare with third brother? Shi Xian thought to himself that it was really difficult to compare. In terms of martial arts cultivation alone, to be honest, in terms of martial arts, senior brother Su must be even more skilled. As for the issue of realm, he selectively ignored it. Because these words were vague, they caught Meng Yuqiong's attention. Shi Xian's keen senses sensed that Meng Yuqiong's gaze was slightly projected onto him. The little girl Su Genie didn't seem to notice any ambiguity. That's right, my fifth brother is a famous young genius in the martial arts world. Shi Xian was also idle, smiling as he spoke to the little girl. I don't know what level of martial arts you have reached, Sister Genie. Su Genie heard Shi Xian call so affectionately after only a while, and gave him a fierce glare. But when he asked this question to his heart, he happily replied, I can break through the period of nourishing qi recently. He looked very proud, with a look of praise and admiration on his face. Shi Xian naturally followed suit and said, Sister Genie, you are really amazing. You are not inferior to your fifth brother back then. Su Genie was very happy and started chatting with Shi Xian. The little girl has nothing to do with the city. During the time she entered the house and arrived at the middle hall, even the admiration for the white-clothed young master Lu Suiyun, one of the 4 young masters of the martial arts world, was spoken of. Lu, who was already a young master, was the most promising master to enter the micro-realm in the future. The martial arts realm corresponding to the soul out of the body realm is the micro-realm. According to Su Laodao, it is reflected in the body and senses that the soul has grown to the outside of the body realm, but there is no way out of the body realm. He is handsome and versatile. Why don't those wise masters of the martial arts world include him among the 5 great masters? It's really tasteless. Because the sky was not completely dark yet, upon entering the gate, one could find that the entire house was grand and had no gloomy feeling at all. It was not until he was about to enter the nave that Shi Xian keenly felt a hint of gloom. Before entering the nave, Su Tianqi quietly fell half a step behind and whispered to Shi Xian, that blade and sword double kill was a famous culprit on Ganlong Road back then. He killed without blinking an eye and carried more than 100 homicide cases. I remember our ancestors said that people with heavy evil energy should be avoided by ghosts. After thinking for a moment, Shi Xian smiled and said to Su Tianqi, I have my own way to ensure that you have a great face in front of your sister Yuqiong. Then Su Tianqi took a quick step and walked into the middle hall side by side with Meng Yuqiong and Su Genie. And Shi Xian followed in with Mu Jin, a tall and silent young man who was often overlooked. End of this chapter. Chapter 9. Waiting for the Een Ghost, for collection. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9. Waiting for the Een Ghost, for collection. After entering the central hall, Xia Wenhui and Dao Jian Shuangjue stood on the left side of the hall. Seeing everyone enter, Xia Wenhui stepped forward and said to Meng Yuqiong with a flattering smile, Yuqiong's sister, let's wait until midnight here. The back is a place that no one has entered for a long time, where snakes, insects, mice, ants, and so on are everywhere. Although Meng Yuqiong and Su Genie are both children of the martial arts world, their faces slightly changed when they heard about snakes, insects, mice, and ants. The 2 girls turned their faces towards Su Tianqi, their eyes and expressions both indicating that they didn't want to go any further, especially Su Genie who almost didn't shout out. However, no matter what, they still wanted to give face to fifth brother and let him make a decision. Su Tianqi's pleading gaze from the beauty softened his body and he immediately spoke, those people who have been haunted before were mostly met in the nave. We should be waiting here. Come on, Yuqiong's sister, let's go sit over there. Upon seeing this, Xia Wenhui stepped forward and said, Sister Yuqiong, that's the cleanest place I've been observing for a long time, and I've even wiped all the chairs clean. He flaunted a pair of cloth strips, as if they were torn off his own body. Shi Xian actually admires this guy a bit. He is very obedient in pursuit of women, and has a deep understanding of the true meaning of the little character in the Pan Lv Deng Xiaoxian 5-character classic. The difference between using palm style to sweep away dust and disregarding one's own image, tearing off one's own clothes and wiping a chair, lies in the attention paid. Although Meng Yuqiong didn't answer considering Su Tianqi's face, her expression still eased from the tense state she had just heard about snakes, insects, mice, and ants. Su Tianqi glared fiercely at Xia Wenhui, but there was no follow-up action. It seems that this guy doesn't have much experience in this area, no wonder his reputation as one of the top 20 young masters in the martial arts world has been weakened in front of this obviously weak Xia Wenhui. Fortunately, Su Tianqi had a good younger sister. The little girl Su Jini pulled him towards the location of the two elders Xia Wenhui, but it was closer to the corridor. She gestured for Su Tianqi to wipe a chair directly with his sleeve before turning to wave to Meng Yuqiong, "Yuqiong's sister, come over here, it's very clean." Meng Yuqiong smiled and arched her hand at Xia Wenhui, saying, "Thank you for your kindness, brother Xia." Then she walked towards Su Jini, and Xia Wenhui's face turned whiter from behind. Because there were only 4 or 5 remaining chairs in the entire hall, Shi Xian saw Su Tianqi paying homage, and everyone else looked at him like air. He took a dust removal spell talisman seal from his hidden bag and held it in his hand. He quickly walked a few steps to Meng Yuqiong's chair not far away, huddled his hand in his sleeve, and directly stimulated the talisman seal with the power of his soul. Then he pretended to use his palm to sweep the ground, and all kinds of debris and dust on the ground flew out in the direction of the corridor with a gust of palm wind. Suddenly, a large and clean ground appeared. Shi Xian didn't pay much attention and sat down cross-legged. Others only shifted their attention when they saw debris and dust flying up. Except for Su Tianqi who knew the details of Shi Xian, everyone else was surprised. At most, at Shi Xian's age, he was just a novice master in the inner family. Now, this effect is similar to that of a master who has accumulated years of inner family true energy. Su Jini's eyes widened wide, and after a long reaction, he stepped forward and said, "Senior brother Shi, you lied to me just now. Fortunately, I am still proud in front of you. You are too bad." Shi Xian smiled and said, "I didn't lie to you. My martial arts are not really a match for senior brother Su." Su Jini suddenly realized and said, "Oh, so you're also about to break through the first meridian of the 8 extraordinary meridians. It's okay, senior brother Shi. My 5th brother has been wandering in the martial arts world for years and has more hands-on experience than you. Hey, I was quite proud just now. Apart from a very small number of people, this kind of cultivation is not well known, so not only did Su Jini not think about it, but from the expressions of Meng Yuqiong, Mu Jin, Xia Wenhui over there, and the 2 elders, they also accepted Su Jini's words. However, everyone's attention to Shi Xian has noticeably increased. Shi Xian thought to himself that it was better to misunderstand, so he said, "Sister Jini, when I was your age, I wasn't as powerful as you." After hearing this, Su Jini turned his anger into joy and said, "Hehe, you can tell the truth." Because Shi Xian cleared a large area, Su Tianqi and Mu Jin also came to sit cross-legged, but Su Tianqi was still within half a step of the chairs of Meng Yuqiong and Su Jini. Then he whispered to Shi Xian, "By the way, it was rumored that the sword and sword double kill had opened up 5 of the 8 extraordinary meridians on the Ganlong Road a few years ago. These years have passed, and I'm afraid my cultivation has reached a higher level. Even if I'm not a first-class expert, the difference is not far. By connecting the 8 extraordinary meridians in the martial arts world and achieving the small Zhou Tian after birth, one can be considered a first-class expert, while connecting the other 18 small meridians is known as the large Zhou Tian after birth and is known as a top-notch expert. Once these 2 passes are broken through, their strength is vastly different from their previous level. As for the masters who enter the micro-realm, it is a breakthrough in the great realm, and the gap between them and the previous ones is even greater. There are only 18 small meridians circulating in the martial arts world, and they are only found in the true teachings of famous sects and sections. There are only a few ordinary secret scripts, and it is impossible to cultivate into a top expert. However, there are 30.6 in the Returning to the True Scripture, which shows the preciousness of the treasure record. Well, don't worry, as long as they don't achieve the heavenly Zhou Tian after tomorrow, there's no problem. By the way, what about Xia Wenhui's martial arts? In fact, for Shi Xian, as long as he's not a master with such a feeling of insignificance in the micro realm, even top experts will only suffer losses in the dark. Moreover, there are so many talismans and seals left by Master Su, who is a master in the realm of leaving the body. If we really want Master Su to come, we are not afraid. Su Tianqi chuckled twice and said, that guy has no talent for martial arts except for his thick skin. His father is the head of the Xia family and a first-class expert. From childhood to adulthood, he used countless precious medicinal herbs, but it wasn't until he was 25 years old this year that he broke through and entered the period of nourishing qi. Xia Wenhui has a thick skin indeed. When everyone sat down here, he told the two elders to move the chairs and all three of them came over. Sister Yuqiong, I see the scenery here is very beautiful. Do you mind if I come over and take a seat? Xia Wenhui said to Meng Yuqiong with a smile. Su Tianqi stood up and said, I said Xia Wenhui, don't be like a dog skin ointment. If you choose that side, go there and wait. Tisk, brother Tianqi, you didn't buy this place. Why can't I come over? Xia Wenhui said, and behind him, Jian Song, with half-white hair and a fierce appearance, took a step forward and then silently stepped back. That step turned a piece of bluestone brick into powder. Su Tianqi took a slight breath, but still wanted to speak. Meng Yuqiong stood up and said first, everyone, we still have something to do later. It's better to calm down and adjust all aspects now, and gather energy. Everyone saw that the beautiful woman had come to settle the situation, so they had to repeatedly say yes, then sit down and close their eyes to regulate their breath. However, when Xia Wenhui and the others sat down, a scar on their faces was cut off with a palm, and the palm wind was slightly larger than that of Shi Xian just now, blowing away a lot of dust. Upon seeing this, Shi Xian muttered inwardly. No matter how strong the wind is, the dust cannot be completely removed by us. At this moment, Shi Xian dared not imagine. He first closed his eyes to regulate his luck and restore his energy, and then used the method of controlling his thoughts in the clear wind and bright moon illumination god temple to restrain his thoughts, keeping his whole body in a clear and bright state. In this state, Shi Xian found that his senses became more sensitive. For example, he could feel Xia Wenhui looking towards him with evil intentions for a moment, and then hesitantly moving back and forth. It is estimated that Xia Wenhui is holding on to his own strength and wants to do something bad to this side, but hesitates due to concerns about other aspects. This keen feeling is very fresh, and Xia Wenhui's state allows Shi Xian to see various factors influencing a person's decision. Even if a decision is truly made, it may not be the true intention of one's own. In fact, I am also the same. Although I have learned the method of using my nature to control my thoughts, I have only followed it and cannot truly see my nature. I am still influenced by the thinking patterns and experiences formed by various experiences since birth, which runs through the process of doing anything. Therefore, there is the saying that, seeing nature is a work. If I can truly break free from external influences and see my own nature, I am afraid I have already achieved the spiritual essence. Therefore, there is still a long way to go in practice. The swords behind Xia Wenhui were both closing their eyes and regulating their breath. Shi Xian saw this opportunity and activated a disaster relief and blessing mantra seal in his sleeve. This seal was only a general auxiliary seal, mainly used to clear the heart and eliminate evil energy. It was just right for the swords. Although their evil energy had already blended with their souls, unless they cooperated with visualization and held a large-scale ritual, the power of the altar could be eliminated. Now they can only be temporarily suppressed. Of course, Shi Xian only needs to suppress it. Moreover, This disaster-dispelling and blessing mantra is a beneficial talisman script. Sword and sword double killing can only feel that in the process of regulating breath, one's mind becomes clearer and energy recovers faster. At most, it is believed that one's own breath-regulating effect is good and their martial arts have improved. Time is approaching midnight, and the main entrance of the nave has long been destroyed. The wind blowing through the hall is making a sound, and even with everyone's martial arts cultivation, there is a hint of coolness. The sound was silent, except for the sound of the wind hunting. Suddenly, the ventilation changed, gloomy and filled with cold. Su Jini and Mu Jin's bodies were trembling, and their teeth were chattering. Suddenly, a white shadow rushed towards the two women in the middle. Su Jini screamed loudly, while Su Tianqin blade and sword Shuangsha on both sides each attacked the white shadow, while Xia Wenhui's face turned pale and he kept retreating. End of this chapter. Chapter 10. The Arrival of Yin Ghosts. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10. The arrival of Yin Ghosts. Su Tianqi and his sword double killed 3 people and hit the white shadow with 6 palms. They felt a hollow space and emerged directly through the shadow. The white shadow seemed to have not been harmed and rushed through the 3 people to Su Jini. Although Su Jini was scared and pale, he managed to stay in the martial arts world for so long. Despite his fear, he used a moderate black tiger move from his heart. As soon as the powder fist hit Buying suddenly retreated to the ground and suddenly emerged from front of Su Jini with a swoosh. Su Jini saw a face without facial features rushing towards him. Just as he was about to react, a bloody mouth appeared on his blank face and gnawed at him. Su Jini only had time to scream before fainting. On the other side, Xia Wenhui was frightened by the scene and shouted before fainting. At this moment, the other few people turned around and rushed over. Meng Yuqiong was originally next to Su Jini and had previously cooperated with her palm movements. However, she was evaded by the white shadow and tried to dodge towards Su Tianqi and the others, but her feet didn't lift up. When she turned around, she saw that her clothes were being pulled by a child. When she looked back, she lifted her eyeless face and smiled at herself. Meng Yuqiong's body softened and she fainted directly. After evading Su Tianqi's 3 men, Buying jumped at Mu Jin again. Mu Jin rolled away with a lazial dagger, glutinous rice rolls with sweet bean flour. As soon as he got up, he saw a white face hanging his eyebrows, and a person with blood in his mouth was facing him. Mu Jin's eyes softened with a stare. At this moment, Shi Xian stood leisurely in the corner because he had been using the method of controlling his thoughts in the clear wind and bright moon shining divine view to restrain his thoughts. After the gust of Yin wind blew by, Shi Xian only felt his head dizzy for a moment before regaining consciousness. Then he saw Su Tianqi and the others jumping back and forth in place, attacking the air. Seeing that they were enchanted by illusion, Shi Xian prepared to use the disaster elimination prayer curse to clear their minds, but on second thought, since the ghost only wants to use illusion to scare them unconscious, it would be more convenient to wait for them to all faint before taking action. If the ghost wants to harm people's lives, they have been on guard all along. Shi Xian gently retreated to the corner, seemingly leisurely guarding the field while secretly observing the surroundings. Without any accidents, in the corridor near the backyard, he found the figure of a woman wearing a goose-yellow skirt and a crimson front, standing half an inch off the ground without a shadow. This is the appearance of a Yin ghost. It's not like that. Maybe I haven't opened my heavenly eye, so I can only see the state after the ghost's transformation. Shi Xian thought to himself, and with the other hand, he took out the heavenly eye opening light talisman from his dark bag to activate it. With a flash of light, Shi Xian looked over and saw only a blurry, humanoid transparent shadow. His face could barely be seen as a woman's face, but it was unclear, indicating that the power of this shadow was indeed not strong. At this moment in the field, Su Tianqi and blade and sword were still fighting against the air. Su Tianqi was anxiously searching for something while fighting, apparently wondering why the Taoist master Shi Shidi he had invited had disappeared. Shi Xian thought to himself, why don't we help make the sword and sword double kill dizzy? This way, even if we win the bet. So, he activated the light body mantra seal and carefully swept behind the blade and sword double kill. Because with Shi Xian's soul thoughts, he was unable to simultaneously activate two seal, so he first activated a green wood manifestation mantra seal. The power of the 5 elements in space fluctuated, and a green wood at the mouth of a bowl condensed behind Jian Tsong's head. With Shi Xian's finger, he fiercely struck Jian Tsong's head. Jian Tsong's body stiffened and then collapsed. When Dao Feng saw Jian Tsong also fall, he was shocked in his heart. He didn't care about making any bets and rushed towards Xia Wenhui, wanting to run out of the house with Xia Wenhui first. Upon seeing this, Su Tianqi turned around and prepared to escape. However, as soon as he turned around, he saw a bloody opening larger than his own head blocking in front of him, as if he could still feel the flow of air. His mind was not as strong as the countless murders of blade and sword double kill, and he fainted as soon as his eyes darkened. Here, Shi Xian triggered the second Qingmu manifestation spell seal and successfully knocked out the blade peak. He was about to awaken Su Tianqi from the illusion. Anyway, this guy knew he knew how to do Taoism, but when he turned around, Su Tianqi had already fainted. At this moment, the transparent shadow drifted towards this side. Although Shi Xian judged that the opponent's strength was not strong, he still took out his own made thunder talisman seal from his dark bag and held it in his hand, just in case. The transparent shadow stopped a few steps away from Shi Xian, facing him sideways, with the suspected parts of his hands placed in front of him. This Taoist, there's no need to do this. My body won't harm anyone's life, it's just that I can't see anyone enter my own house. Well, I've heard outside that the ghosts here won't harm people's lives, they just scared them away, so I didn't take action against you just now. I don't know why you've been remembering this place, after all, you're no longer a living person. Shi Xian returned. The female ghost turned her back and murmured, Taoist, I'm not sure if you can remove this perspective spell. I'm a grand and elegant lady, but I'm not used to being naked in front of outsiders. Shi Xian was speechless, thinking to himself that this was the heavenly eye illumination technique, which was used to see ghosts, not perspective. However, since the other party is willing to appear and talk, it doesn't matter if you cancel this spell yourself. Anyway, it's not just this one talisman seal. There's really some conspiracy, and you can use it again. However, I still use the Zhang exorcism induction spell seal for myself. If there is any Yin ghost approaching, there will be induction and I am not afraid of sneak attacks. After Shi Xian's qi regulating mantra lifted the heavenly eye illumination technique, he saw that the female ghost had become the same as before with a goose yellow skirt and a crimson shirt. He was not busy talking to the female ghost and walked up to Jian Kong based on the acupoint tapping experience he had learned with Su Tianqi and others before, he tapped his sleeping hole. After all, it was difficult to determine when a master of this level would wake up, and tapping the hole would save trouble. Although Shi Xian still had the soul-fixing mantra, there are better methods such as calming the mind, but acupoint tapping is more labor-saving and cost-effective. Draw gourds according to the same pattern, and point the sleeping acupoints for Dao Feng, Xia Wenhui, Mu Jin, Su Jini, and Meng Yuqiong. As for Su Tianqi, wake up whenever you want. Upon returning, I saw that the female ghost had already turned around, with a dignified and graceful face. She walked over calmly and bowed, saying, I don't know what you call this Taoist, why don't you take a seat in the side hall with me? Shi Xian smiled and said, my surname is Shi. I don't know how to address the female benefactor. Let's talk here, after all, my friends are all here. My body is Feng Shi, please ask Master Shi to sit for a moment, and I will go and brew a pot of tea. After giving a bow, I drifted out again. Shi Xian was taken aback and thought to himself, it's been too long since I've seen anyone and haven't communicated with anyone, so is that why I'm so polite and polite? Raising a chair that had been knocked over before, Shi Xian casually sat on it, secretly pondering what to ask and what to do in the end. At this moment, Shi Xian's keen senses noticed that there were two small heads secretly looking inside the door that entered the backyard corridor. When he saw Shi Xian looking over, he immediately shrank back. After a while, perhaps seeing that Shi Xian had no reaction, he reached out again. Shi Xian finally saw clearly that they were two adorable children, about 3 or 4 years old, one male and one female, with a pale face. Shi Xian understood that they should also be ghosts, but seeing that the two children had no ill intentions, he smiled at them kindly. The two children were frightened by this smile and retreated. After waiting for a moment, the boy held the girl's hand and sneaked in, stopping in front of Shi Xian. "Hello, Taoist uncle. My name is Fong Delin and I'm 4 years old." "Well, I don't know why. Every year, my mother says I'm 4 years old," said the boy looking at Shi Xian. "My name is Fong Hanliang, I am my younger sister, but I am also 4 years old," the girl interjected with her round eyes wide open. Shi Xian thought to himself, although I was considered an uncle in my previous life, I'm not even 20 now. He kindly said, "Delin, Hanliang, what's up with you coming over here?" Hanliang answered first, "We're so hungry, Taoist uncle." After finishing speaking, he looked at the dizzying few people with his food gaze, and then turned his pitiful gaze to Shi Xian. Shi Xian did not feel any bloody smell from the two children. It seemed that they were not eating blood, they were just absorbing some yang energy. However, there was no response from them because at this moment, a tea plate was held by a female ghost and drifted in. "Delin, Hanliang, how can you disturb the guests? Come over quickly." The female ghost placed the tea plate on another chair that had fallen next to Shi Xian, and then picked up a cup of tea for Shi Xian. In fact, it was not appropriate to say that she was taking it, and her hand did not touch the cup. The two children pouted and ran behind their mother. Although the female ghost seemed harmless, Shi Xian didn't dare to be careless. He activated the talisman seal of the object capturing technique in his sleeve and picked up the tea cup, because he had always maintained a clear state of mind to restrain his thoughts and was not fascinated by low-level illusions. It can be seen that this tea cup was woven of lotus leaves, while the tea plate was a large lotus leaf. The dew in the tea cup appeared to be thin, but Shi Xian didn't dare to drink it. Upon seeing this, the female ghost of the Fong family lowered her head slightly and said, "Master Dao, don't blame me. Since I have grown up like this, I can no longer hold anything and can only use the techniques I have comprehended to hold it. My cultivation level is not enough, so I can only hold these light and delicate objects. It's really disrespectful to the guests," she said in an ashamed tone. Shi Xian put down his teacup and changed the topic, saying, "I wonder what Delin and Hanliang want to come in and have." The female ghost of the Fong family hesitated to speak until she was pulled by the two children behind her and said, "Taoist, I pity you. These children are really hungry, but they don't harm anyone's life. They just need to inhale some yang energy, which is harmless to the human body. At most, they will be mentally unstable for a few days." Shi Xian thought for a moment, but without looking back, he pointed to the sword double kill on the left rear and said, "These two people were both murderers who had no chance of killing anyone back then. It's a good thing for you to suck on his yang energy. You can also go together." Upon seeing this, Fong was overjoyed and pulled the two children Ying to bow down, then drifted towards the sword double kill. End of this chapter.